Hey, Joe here again with another something else for winterization, just to keep things from freezing. You want to make sure that you have a heated water hose. We have one here. You want to make sure that if your water spigot is coming up out of the ground like ours is, you want to make sure that that's also insulated and heated. So that has heat tape wrapped around the whole water line that comes up and out. And then our hose is insulated as well as has heat tape on it or in it, which has that black wire that comes down, and then they're plugged in for power. And we plug that power right in at the pedestal, as our pedestal has the 50 amp plug as well as a 20 amp plug, so we can plug in a normal 110 and plug into it, which would be to power the heat tape here. So that'll keep your water lines from freezing. A lot of people don't recommend putting the Y adapter on the outside, or even the water pressure regulator gauge. I do have mine still out here, but some of this heat tape actually is exposed here, so it's keeping the water gauge from freezing. So far I've had good luck, but we'll see as time goes on what happens there. But I think so far so good, so I'm gonna keep it that way for now. And then pretty much then this blue hose, I have it that just kind of runs along here and then goes all the way up to the front of the rig, where it goes up and inside and connects in for our fresh water. The other thing I wanted to mention is a lot of times people, that's as far as they go with it being cold outside. Anything that's below 36 degrees, you'll definitely want to have heat tape wrapped on your water hose. Otherwise your water lines, that's about where it starts freezing, or starts freezing up on you. But then the other tip is a lot of people have the issue that if they're hooked up to full hookups like we are to a sewer here, some people leave the gray tank open, or the black tank, or both, or neither one. I mean, everybody's got their own opinion on that. But with that, when you go to drain your tanks, when you pull any of your valves, because it is cold outside, especially if it's 36 or under, when you pull that valve and then it starts flowing, if you've got any P-traps like we have here, or even if it's a straight shot, as it's flowing, if there's anything in here, it'll freeze up from the last time you drained, which will cause it to back up, and then you won't be able to empty your tanks. So what I end up doing is getting some heat tape, and I have heat tape underneath. You can see some of the tape there, but I have heat tape that sits underneath the whole drain hose here, which I'll give you a better view of it maybe here on this one coming up. I have the heat tape taped here, and then I also use some zip ties also to hold it in place. So I have the heat tape sitting on the drain pipe here, so that way when it does flow out, it doesn't freeze along the way. And then I have that running all the way, because I've got two dump spots that have to be hooked up. So that's why I have this Y adapter here. So they all have the heat tape hooked underneath, as you can see some of it actually sitting right there. So yeah, so by having the heat tape wrapped to the bottom of the drain hoses, we have not had any freezing with emptying the tanks. So even with it being cold outside, I'm able to open the valves, empty the tanks, and nothing is freezing. And if there is anything still sitting in the line between emptying, I know that it won't be frozen, since we've got the heat tape plugged in. And same thing, I have that heat tape also plugged into the pedestal here. So yeah, so I just want to give you that tip, something that's pretty quick and easy and inexpensive. I haven't seen any drain hoses that are insulated. There's probably some out there somewhere online. Otherwise I pretty much just kind of made my own, because obviously it doesn't really need to be insulated, it just needs that heat tape attached to it just to kind of keep things flowing. And I put the heat tape on the bottom side of it, because that's where when water is flowing through here, if it's not a full like immediate rush of water where it's filling that whole tube, it's just going to be kind of a trickle, especially at the end. So all that water, where it goes is with gravity, it's going to be sitting on the bottom of that pipe. So that's why I put the heat tape on the underside on the bottom, so that way wherever that water or sewage is going to be sitting in that tube, that's where the warmth is going to be, instead of the whole tube. with reading on some of the heat tape recommendations, they tell you not to wrap the heat tape itself around the hose, whether it's, well, whatever kind of hose they're talking about, whether like in our case it's the water line or the drain. There must be, I'm not sure the exact science behind it, but something with that it creates some sort of extra current, since it's just basically just drawing power through it and shorting out a cable. So you don't want to coil it around the hose, you want to just have a straight shot follow it. So that's why I don't have it wrapped and it's just following it. Because even if you look on like on the heated hose, you'll see this like squarish and then portion, and then the rounded, so the hose is here, the square part is the heat tape. So they're connected to each other and it's wrapped in insulation. So same idea, they don't have it coiled around either. Excuse me. So yeah, so you just want to make sure when you use the heat tape that you don't wrap it around the hose, but that you just do it as a straight rung. And then they recommend using tape, or in my case I've used some zip ties. They recommend using tape and not using anything that's metal, like bread ties or any sort of metal twist ties. So I end up using electrical tape because that's just what I had easy on hand. It's also easy to unwrap and take off once we don't need it anymore, once it warms up outside, compared to like duct tape. With the zip ties, I think their concern is that the heat tape does get a little warm, and I guess they don't want the zip ties to melt. But as long as you get high quality zip ties that are made to be good for the zip ties I have, I think they say that they're good for minus 20 degrees up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So in my case, I mean, they're going to be well more than qualified for this situation. So the heat tape doesn't get like hot, it just gets warm, just warm enough to keep things from freezing. And all of my heat tape has thermostats on it. So if you look at the end of one of these here, like this guy, this is the thermostat on here. So this tells it what the temperature is. So then it turns on and off based off of that. So that way I can just leave this plugged in. So even if we end up with a warm day, or if it's warm during the day and it doesn't need it, it'll turn the heat tape off, so it's not just constantly running. So, which helps if you have to pay for electricity, depending on your campsite. Well, thanks for watching, and we will catch you next time.